Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today for optimizing your Splunk investment, brought to you by Proficio. And again, we do these presentations on a regular basis. Hopefully, we'll be providing you some value on how to really take your current investment in Splunk and migrate it into an environment that's providing you more visibility, more situational awareness of your threat discovery and events, and some of the things as a managed security services provider we've learned over a number of years that can help you in your environment. Today's agenda will be talking about several items. One is that what are some of the common security information and event management system and security operations center challenges that most companies find when they first implement a security information event management system or begin to try and do threat discovery with these advanced analytics tools. We'll also talk about how to provide monitoring and alerting and what the monitoring and alerting goals are for doing threat discovery. We'll talk about some of the key considerations around Splunk and the Splunk environment. We'll also talk about some of the service options that Proficio provides to optimize your Splunk investment. And then we'll talk about some additional services we provide around cybersecurity and helping you to do threat discovery and response. My name is Brad Taylor. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Proficio. Been in the security industry for about 20 or 25 years with some companies like RSA Security, ArcSight, a few others. And my experience in and around managed security services goes back to around 2010 when we created Proficio as a managed detection and response company. Also today on the webinar, we have the privilege of having with us Aleem Cummins, who is the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for Corporate Software Services. Aleem is a distinguished evangelist for Splunk and a thought leader and international speaker around big data analytics, as well as a consultant and a confidant to many chief security officers in a global environment. So Aleem will share some of his insights on big data analytics and the relevancy to threat discovery and the Splunk environment. As I mentioned before, Proficio is what's considered the next generation of a managed security services provider in that we provide managed detection and response services. We're a global organization, and predominantly what we offer organizations is what we call a security operations center as a service, which entails both tier 1, tier 2 monitoring and threat discovery and triage, as well as tier 3 services for doing threat hunting as well as response capabilities. We have Splunk expertise that's always available to our customers, as well as security experts that are always on call, providing that 24/7 security monitoring, investigation, and alerting, as well as incident response services that can either be orchestrated and automated through active defense or response services from a manual perspective. Our SOC services models are either a cloud environment with a cloud SIEM as well as cloud security operations center, or a hybrid environment. If you already have Splunk in your enterprise, you need some assistance in establishing use cases, workflow for SOC analysts, as well as providing security operations center services for people to do the monitoring, investigation, validation, and hunting. We provide that looking in and peering in and through your Splunk environment as well. In addition to the SOC services, we provide a large number of cybersecurity services that range from vulnerability management, security assessments through compliance programs and virtual chief information security officers that are available for your service requirements. Proficio, as I mentioned, is a global organization. We have 3 security operations centers located in San Diego, Barcelona, and Singapore, which give us the ability to follow the sun and give us a global perspective as to threats that are evolving and occurring throughout the global environment. It also provides us the ability to support our customers that have international presences through our 24/7 around the world coverage through our 3 security operations centers. As we begin, what I'd like to discuss quickly is some of the common SIEM and SOC challenges. One of the things I've learned over 15 years or so in and around security operations centers and the SIEM environment is that a SIEM is really just a tool. It's a big data analytics engine probably one of the first big data analytics software applications that is operated by the security team. When SIEM technology first came out, a lot of people thought that it would be kind of a magic system that allowed you to throw a lot of logs into it, and magically it would tell you where you're having a threat, where you have an indicator of compromise, where you have policy violations. And it really doesn't work like that, and we all probably know that by now. A SIEM is a great tool for looking for known bad indicators, but you have to know what to ask it. So when you get a SIEM like Splunk or a large search engine, you have the ability to throw all of your logs at it and create a big data analytics engine. But what happens is you start to use the basic essentials that are delivered with the system, and you begin to see alert fatigue. So you see way too many alerts with not a lot of relevance if you're just using base content, and essentially you'll get thousands of notables that you have to filter through and try to discover what's happening within your environment. The other challenge that people face when they're implementing these SIEM technologies is they have a lack of resources. So in order to provide the capability of reducing the number of false alerts, discovering the true indicators of compromise, indicators of attack early in the kill chain, you have to be able to create the use cases and create the questions to ask the SIEM to give you the information in a relevant manner so that you can do something about it. So the resource requirement is to have those people that know how to create the use cases in an efficient way so that you can begin to get indicators of compromise and attack. You also need resources to then actively monitor those events, do a validation, is the event true, do a review of the event, potentially for greater detail, to determine what has to happen in the organization to provide containment. So you know, what's the relevance to my business? Is this a critical alert? Is it a minor alert? Do I need to take action within the next 30 minutes, or can I wait for a change management window? So your security monitoring and analyst will do that investigation, validation, and then also the triage and provide some recommendations to your operations teams. What we found in our business is that most companies don't have the resources or the people that are actively monitoring the events and performing that security monitoring action 24/7. And so they're missing a lot of things that are going on that the system is delivering throughout the visibility of the system when it's well tuned and has proper use cases, because you're not monitoring in real time and doing those investigations. The third thing that we see as a challenge in many security operations centers is we buy the systems to get visibility. And if they're well tuned and well operated, they can provide tremendous visibility. But if they're generally just established and you throw logs at it without building use cases and doing data enrichment and monitoring the events, you're going to have poor system performance because it might not be tuned correctly. You may not be asking questions in the proper way through search filters and search optimization. And so you're going to get system performance issues. The other thing that we find in most organizations is they have relatively poor threat discovery, and they don't have the workflow that's required to efficiently and effectively monitor events, do the validation, and get to a actionable informational point where they can actually take action based on the context of their business. So those are some of the general SIEM and SOC challenges. What we'll talk about now is I'd like to ask Aleem. Aleem, in your environment and doing big data analytics, what are some of the challenges that you see?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. You absolutely just nailed that last slide. So many thanks for inviting me today. I must admit that I'm a big Proficio fan, needless to say, and I really appreciate and respect you guys and what you guys stand for. Certainly an example of great leadership and great people. And of course, the opportunity to share insight with everyone is awesome for me. I like nothing better. So by way of introduction, my name is Aleem Cummins. I am the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for Corporate Software Services, also known as CSS. So we're headquartered in Costa Mesa in California, and we also have offices in the UK. So we provide services and solutions with a strong analytics focus. So we're a Splunk partner like Proficio in the US, and also for us in the UK, with a strong focus on managed services and professional services. Now, I came on board recently, in fact, June 2017, to drive us forward by harnessing and leveraging the promise and potential of Splunk in a major way. So ITSM is a traditional sweet spot for us, but I'll tell you what, watch this space. So I'm based around London, England. I'm actually Irish, and I've been in the UK for the last 22 years, and I'm very fortunate to get out to the US 5 or 6 times a year now, which is amazing. So in terms of my Splunk provenance, I've held a number of senior positions in analytics companies for many years, all with a Splunk focus. I'm a regular conference speaker, including Splunk.conf in Washington next month, if anybody's going, on September 25th. I've been fortunate to win several major Splunk awards, including Worldwide Channel Partner of the Year in 2016, privileged to be a member of Splunk Trust, a member of the Splunk CISO Customer Advisory Board. I'm very much a community evangelist and contributor. So back in 2013, I founded what is now the largest Splunk user group in the world, and that's the Splunk User Group London. But you know what? I mean, that aside, the bottom line here is that I'm a good citizen when it comes to analytics, and you couldn't do anything more than to contribute to our combined journeys. Now, in terms of what I wanted to share today, well, funnily enough, my experience of Splunk is that it is defined, designed, and guided by journeys. So these journeys have challenges. These journeys have opportunities. So I, for one, firmly believe that so many of these challenges form wider opportunities. So example might be identifying technical debt that hitherto was under the table that nobody knew about. But by probing with something like Splunk, we can find that technical debt. We can raise it up, which can be uncomfortable at times, but it's better to know than not to know. And also we could expose weaknesses in the systems and infrastructure. So for me, it's all about vision, strategy, attitude, confidence, capability, and continuous improvement. So today I fancy calling out a few notables for consideration. There's many more, but just for now, let's have a look at these 3. So it's very common for Splunk to start in organizations as a point solutions. Now, you might have heard of this referred to as a single use case. These can be very successful. It could be a SIEM, it could be IT operations, it could be fraud, it could be PCI compliance. And it definitely creates opportunity, but it also creates a byproduct of wider challenges. So now all of a sudden, well, how can you add additional use cases? How can you onboard other parts of the organization? How can you keep track of growth and progress? How on earth can you prioritize all of that? And how do you actually go multi-use case? Well, hang on for a second. I mean, what exactly is a use case? So for me, a use case has a number of facets, and these may include an owner, a sponsor, a business outcome, a definition of done or acceptance criteria, a set of artifacts, so dashboards, reports, alerting thresholds, a set of actions, maybe some automations, as Brad said, some workflows, some processes, a set of compliances, for example, adherence to your standard operation model, audit, governance, and change control, and a set of data is required, and a set of data access is required. Do you have success criteria that's expressed in metrics? I mean, I could go on and on and on, but ultimately, I think if you nail these things up front, if you consider these things up front, you are in a much stronger position than they all come to you at the very, very end when there's no time to react. Because by definition, the sooner you can make modifications in your project lifecycle, the cheaper and more effective it's going to be. So rather than plugging holes, you're creating opportunities. So it's not really enough to ingest all the data you have in a Splunk. I mean, this is great, absolutely, but where's the business end game? Where's the business outcome? So I'm a big fan of, as you might expect, of use case workshops, and ultimately validated use cases are the outcome. So I've run master classes in these for years and years, and believe me, it's quite therapeutic as well, and it's great for collaboration and team building. So, but also organizations can have data cartels, and without giving you a definition of that, you can probably get a feeling for where I'm coming from. And having an executive sponsor can help to ride out the storms in the sea of change and transformation. So we need to go really from vision to strategy, to programs, to projects, to phases, to story generation, to backlog, to doing, to testing, and ultimately delivery. So there's There's quite a lot involved there. So we really must have a clear definition of done and an acceptance with continuous improvement built in by design. So that's certainly how I operate and coach businesses. I never ask how much time has been spent on the task. I only ever ask how long is there to go and what impediments stand in our way. Retrospectives are there for that, and they're a key facet in continuous improvement. But then moving on to business outcome, you really must ensure that at all times that the tasks you undertake and commit resource to are in pursuance of business outcomes, with the definition of what that pursuance actually means. If there's no strategic alignment, this is a warning sign. Okay, some tasks are operational, which is fine, but I say to people, please treat operations, business, and development as individual pillars of business outcome. The only difference is the timing. So the first time you use Splunk, for sure, I've seen this, you can have transformational finding. It's very important to always baseline before delivery rather than after delivery. The true value of Splunk comes when an organizational platform has Splunk as a thread that runs through the fabric of the organization. So it's also very important that we're able to map that expectation and the reality, because the promise of something like a Splunk is truly amazing. It's truly transformational. But if I ask you to do something for a second, if you were to hold out your left hand, okay, and hold your left hand to about where your nose is, that's expectation. Now hold out your right hand to where your belly button is. That's reality. Now that gap in the middle of the two, if you bring your hands together, well, that's emotion. So it's really important, certainly through my experience, that if we can manage to keep our expectations tight and close to reality, that's always going to be a winner for us. But then we have our rigor. So is there testing of our dashboards? Are the metrics documented? Are the associated processes signed off? And where's all the knowledge to this? And then in terms of organization, the one thing I would certainly say about Splunk is that it's a catalyst for change. And used to its fullest potential, Splunk is indeed a catalyst for organizational transformation, or some people refer to it as digital transformation. So something like Splunk thrives on collaboration. In fact, it actually insists on it. But by the same token, Splunk can be made to be perceived to be quite simple. Don't be fooled. Do not be fooled. Capability is a pillar of success, and its absence is a serious threat. And it's very true that finding capability on demand is also very challenging. So your options are, do you create your own team from scratch? Do you leverage existing expertise to jumpstart your success? Or maybe it's an amalgam of the two. So that is where Proficio are well positioned to help you there. They can do it all for you, or they can help you on your journey. But ultimately, the thing is, you can't do everything. And that's the case for a managed service provider, as it's the same case for an end user, as it's the same case for an organization. So you really do need to set your bets and decide on what your strategic imperatives are. But the more focus we can give to enablement, the more success to be gleaned from our use cases, and the more business outcomes to be ultimately delivered. The key for this is to have repeatable and dependable, but in an environment where it's all understood. So we really want to move data to information, to knowledge, to wisdom in a structured framework. However, so many organizations, I hasten to add, are following a map and writing that map at the same time. So this is where we can have working practices that can help. And a great example of this might be Agile. So we get to build on our capability, our collaboration, our commitment, and our pursuance of business outcomes with a cadence, but with a continuous improvement that will drive transformation, that we can really leverage the investment we have and the ROI we get from a tool like Splunk. Or mind you, I probably shouldn't call it a tool. If it's a tool, it's expensive. If it's a platform, we're in a great place. Now, I'd also ask you as well, does anybody run Splunk modifications through change control, or do organizations have non-production Splunk environments in the first place? So in terms of rigor, you might find organizations, when they had it as a single use case solution, went straight to production, went in, firefighting, got it done, but remained in production, and then didn't have a non-production environment, which can indeed cause problems with change control and audit. So, I mean, and also one of the keys here is that we can really leverage data at scale and exploit that to business benefit. But that is what we can do when we're looking at it from an organizational perspective. So as a general rule, the higher up the chain we can go, the higher up the organization we can make the case for data. The higher up the organization we can make the case, let's say for Splunk, the more benefit. Think of an umbrella. The more benefit we can have and the more impact that we can have. And to be honest, I could indeed talk here for hours, but I think I've probably said enough to sort of get us thinking, and especially around use cases. I mean, Brad mentioned it earlier, and he's absolutely 100% correct. Use cases are so important. So I think without further ado, Brad, I'll probably turn that back to yourself. So happy splunking, everyone.
Aleem, thank you very much for the tremendous insight. You've got a lot of knowledge in this area, and thank you for sharing it with us on focusing on some of the business outcomes, how to get there, and some of the challenges. As you mentioned, thank you, sorry. As you mentioned, use cases are very important to define in your environment, and extremely important when you're looking at discovery of threats within a SIEM for your security operations. One of the things that we've discovered is it's a continuous journey, as you mentioned before, and you have to continuously update and tune your analytics and your use cases. You have to add in the business context of your organization by doing asset modeling and understanding what the prioritization of your different assets throughout your organization are, and model those into your use cases as well, so you can perform data enrichment, helping your analysts do the investigation, and then also providing that ability of your analysts to look for the unknown indicators, as well as perform that first level of triage and even containment in your security operations center or through your partner performing some of those functions for you. Some of the other things that we've discovered for SIEM operation goals, once you define use cases, once you build in data enrichment, once you build in the business analytics, the goals actually of the operations center for security are the accuracy of alerts. Once you have accuracy of alerts, you can start to do something about it. It really requires that you minimize the false positives and you provide context and relevance of your alert notifications to your different operations teams as well as your security team. You need to understand, is this a critical asset or is it the janitor's PC someplace, so that I know what the relevance is to my business, what the context is in the situation, and that'll help me to respond effectively. One of the key performance indicators of a security operations team is understanding what your mean time to detect a significant event is and what your mean time to contain that event is, and ultimately your mean time to remediate and turn the operations back to a normal environment. So understanding how to get the tools and the platforms operating, how to get the operations functioning accurately with context will lead you to the success in those key performance indicators. At Proficio, we can actually help you to achieve these goals. Proficio has a series of enterprise essentials for Splunk to help you to optimize your investment. We begin by adding SIEM use cases. Throughout our number of years as a managed detection and response company, we've continuously created use cases, search filters, and correlation rules. We have over 350 current use cases, and we create new use cases on a weekly and monthly basis. We also have thousands of correlation rules and search filters that actually charge and help to define some of these use cases. Some of the use cases are built on advanced threat discovery for detecting indicators of compromise and indicators of attack. We also have use cases looking at behavioral analytics and policy violations. The goal is to define and catch attackers as well as malicious insiders as early in the kill chain as possible so that we can take action so they don't laterally propagate or it doesn't turn into a breach. This also requires adding business context and doing what we call business context modeling inside of your use case. Every organization is different and you have to map the use cases and the discovery to your business environment. You need to enrich the data with things like asset modeling so you understand what are your important and critical applications. You also should input some of your security policies. Do you allow things like remote desktop? Do you allow Tor in your environment? Do you allow geolocations such as the Ukraine for VPN? So if you can define some of your business context within your use cases, it'll help you to understand what the critical alerts are and what to do about them and where to take that action. The other thing that we provide as part of the essentials are dashboards and reports. Dashboards are effective if they're focused on security posture so that you can get great visibility very quickly, and then also for operational efficiency for different operating groups that may need to look at security data to get a quick view of their operational environment. Another key element of a dashboard is having the ability to drill down into the dashboard. So if you see an anomaly within an environment, you should be able to drill down and have a search filter pre-populate for you so that you can begin an investigation of that environment. The other thing critical to providing security operations is effective reports, both at the executive level and at the level of the different operational teams, so that they can look for anomalies within actions that they may have taken for their operational environment. You may want to have a domain controller administrator look to see if they've actually performed some group policy changes at 3 o'clock in the morning. You can have an alert indicator for that, or you can ask them to review the reports on a weekly basis. Reporting also should feed into your case management system. One of the other critical elements that is required for effective security operations is actually a security operations center workflow, or a SOC workflow. In order for your analysts to be effective at doing discovery and validation, they need to have the data enriched so that they can have information that they would normally have to hunt through that's presented to them in a single screen, so they can make a determination or do an investigation as to a threat, its validity in the organization, to confirm that it's actually something that's actionable, and then help them to do the investigation and determine what is the recommendation for containment and remediation that they send up into the ticket or into the operational group that's going to be responding to the actual incident. A lot of times this is called SOC orchestration. So in order to provide that orchestration of the investigation or the workflow into the tree structure of how you investigate different types of events, you have to pre-populate that, and you also have to use the platform itself to enrich the data for your analyst and then migrate it through the chain of how they actually operate with the information to get to the result. It's also effective for a SOC workflow to have enriched data in search content so you can do threat hunting. Remember, a SIEM looks for known bad indicators, so it's not always going to find every threat in your environment. You need to have analysts and a workflow that's effective in hunting for those things that are the unknown. The last thing that an organization needs, and it's a critical element in any security operations environment, is actually 24/7 security monitoring. Somebody that's dedicated, or a team of people that are dedicated to monitoring the events in real time, looking for the suspicious activity, doing the validation of the incidents, a triage of what to do about them, and then alert those teams that actually take that incident response. You also need to have your incident response plan tuned with the platform so that you can actually perform the incident response and track it through the entire life cycle of the event. At Proficio, we help companies in all aspects of this environment. The beginning is we can help you in a managed services environment, or what we call co-manage of your actual Splunk platform. We can help you with a team of Splunk experts that can provide systems administration, help you through performance upgrades, as well as monitor your infrastructure 24/7 to make sure that you're collecting logs correctly in the forwarders, making sure you're indexing them properly. And then if anything goes wrong with your system, we can actually respond and support the platform to get it back up in an operational environment and keep your platform running in an optimized environment for your security operations. Another option is to have us do expert on call services. So in some cases, you may have teams of people that can actually do the administration and the upgrades of the platform, but you need help from time to time. And so we can provide you that expertise on call as needed for helping you maintain your platform or to actually create content for you. Another service that we provide is our security monitoring and alerting service from our security operations centers globally. So what this means is we would actually add some use cases and stock workflow into your Splunk environment, and then our security analysts remotely would be monitoring your security events on your Splunk platform, doing the investigation, the validation, and the threat discovery. We would be searching for events that are not enriched with the indicators through threat hunting, as well as looking at all the suspicious activities that the use cases are triggering for investigation. We would also perform threat response if required, or we can actually add modules for what we call active defense to do automated containment for incident response. All of this is provided through our security operations centers 24/7, looking at your Splunk environment, adding our expertise with people and resources to do the validation, alerting, and response if needed. Additional services that we provide many of our customers are that expert on call to help you with creating dashboards, use cases, and content, as well as extended break fix when your system needs some help or needs some assistance, and you need somebody you can call right now. In addition, as I mentioned before, we also have bundles of use cases that we can help to apply in your environment, depending on what your control systems are for your security and your security policies. We have a tremendous amount of experience. We have a very large library of use cases that have been tested and tried and trued in a large environment. We also, through our threat hunting and forensic investigations, on a weekly and monthly basis, will find new vectors of attacks, new methods of attacks from different attackers, and then we create new use cases to now discover those indicators of attack and indicators of compromise, because it's a known bad indicator. So we're continuously updating the use cases and would continuously upgrade and update the use cases that we've provided to you as well. The way our solution works is actually a hybrid solution architecture. We would add the use cases into your Splunk environment in your network operations center. We would then have a site-to-site VPN into our security operations center, where our security analyst would monitor the events 24/7, perform the investigations and alerts, add in our threat intelligence database, and then we would create a custom escalation runbook to actually perform the ticketing, the case management, the alert notification, and response services if needed. So in closing, some of the key takeaways from today's discussion are Splunk is a tremendous platform that is very helpful in a security operation environment, as well as throughout the organization. But it must be continuously maintained and tuned by experts to produce the best results. No tools are magic. No platforms can automatically detect and validate all threats. It requires people. And the people need to have a platform that's very well tuned, that has use cases that will help them to identify the business context with known indicators and known indicators of attack and compromise and policy violations. And then you need people to do security operations center event monitoring that can help you to deliver true efficiency from your Splunk investment. At Proficio, we have experience in providing this security operations center monitoring, adding use cases, and helping you with managed services for your Splunk environment. We're truly an intelligent cybersecurity services company, and we'd like to offer our services to your organization. And we thank you very much for attending today's webinar. Please attend our webinars in the future, and we look forward to talking with you in the near term. Have a great day. Bye.